Just like Thursday, the boat in trouble. This time, Nomura was able to wriggle off the hook with a minute 30 to go, and now they hold a favored position.
Not gonna have it. They called to each other tonight.
Game here is to get up to full speed. Kayard makes his move first, and he'll be going faster when the gun goes off.
Go down below the line. 20. 17. 14. 13. 4, 3, 2, 1, gun.
Another clean start and another good job by Dellenbaugh.
Hey, how are you all? Holy crow. The New England Patriots are going to the Super Bowl again. Yeah, great. Look, color me happy. I'm a Patsies fan. I know. Y'all don't care about sports ball. I know. It's like who cares about all this stuff? But some of us do. I am not particularly enthused by Robert Kraft and the Kraft family's uh, getting their jollies off, but I am very, very happy for the organization, and particularly for the athletes who this is the goal. You play for this, and they played well. I was a little bit disappointed with, at least at the outset of the game, beginning of the game with the Pats. Geez, just misreading of what was coming at them on the defensive side. But they got their stuff together and they made it happen at the end of the day. So I'm happy. But that's not actually why I'm here tonight. I'm here because of what's going on in this country. I think that it's really. I think people need to pay attention to history at this point, and pay attention to historians. Now, I'm a seamstress, but part of my history is uh, uh, a spell of time uh, achieving a degree from Brandeis University in history, specifically the history of the United States in the pre-colonial area, well, the colonial era. Uh, and part of that has to do with the fact that I am myself a daughter or a descendant of that era, um, with family that goes back there. I'm a WASP. I I hope, a WASP who has done enough examining of both the the um, aspirations of my forebears and their faults. And of faults, we have many. Uh, Certainly, the British Empire uh, and uh, and English common law has many faults. Um, I would hope, I would sort of beg forgiveness for my fellow human beings to realize that, in realizing that, you know, those English, those Brits, boy, they're rat bastards. And I certainly appreciate that. Uh, but you know, every culture has their strengths and weaknesses, and one of I think, pardon me, I think that one of the strengths of my people have been a bit of reflection. But come at me, you know, just like okay, you know, I'm cool with that. Please come at me. Uh, I am perfectly willing to say, and I have said before on this channel, I, you know, I am a descendant of the worst people on earth, the fucking English. They went after the Irish, they went after the Scots, they went after the Welsh, you know, in their own islands, and then they went after the rest of the fucking world. So yeah, I'm I'm not entirely without the capacity of reflection. But here's the thing: at the moment, I need to take. I feel like I need to take stock uh, of the history of my people here on this continent. Um, and what the what's how best to say it? What what the reflection that those people, the people of particularly the 18th century, had towards natural rights, and particularly the natural rights of Englishmen. And I really, you know, current events have caused me to reflect upon March 5th, 1770, when British troops assembled in front of the Massachusetts State House, Colony House, fired upon a crowd um, of, pardon me, hold on a second. Fired upon a crowd of subjects of the British Empire, their fellows, who were standing and pelting them with snowballs. March 5th. Like maybe we can reflect on the fact that there's a goddamn blizzard out here right now. Here I am in Portland, Maine, and there's a blizzard raging. And so these British troops were getting pelted by snowballs. Um, Something odd happened, and they fired on the crowd. And Crispus Attucks, uh, a a freeman, a black freeman of of the town of Boston, was killed. First man killed. by British troops enforcing the rule of the crown. I think it's worth remembering as well that those people, those British troops, when they came to trial, when they did come to trial, in the Massachusetts Bay Colony, in the Massachusetts colony, those troops were defended by John Adams. John Adams was our first vice president, second president. If you look into history, you will find that John Adams was probably, most probably, the most important person in persuading the other colonies to stand against British tyranny. And yet he defended those troops in 1770, a mere 5 years prior to British troops assaulting my hometown of Lexington, Massachusetts, and killing 6 Americans, 6 colonists. John Adams was a man who really did believe in the structure of law. John Adams is also the man who authored or wanted to put into place the Alien and Sedition Acts. So, like, our our founders were complicated men, complicated women. Also, I would mention that John Adams was the only one of the persons attending the Continental Congresses who did not own slaves and was deeply opposed to the institution. Anyway, that's many rabbit holes to dive down. But here we are. We have a situation now where our government, our federal government, is imposing its will. In fact, imposing the will of one man and an establishment of people that agree with this one man, that certain folk among us are less than and have no right to legitimacy in government, no right to a voice. Simply because they disagree with the notion that all citizens of these United States have certain inalienable rights. And that's from the theoretical basis of the foundation of the nation, not from the practical one. He also disagrees with the actual rights spelled out in the first written constitution in the history of the world. We are not witnessing a, 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 an ideology that says America was great at any particular time. We're witnessing an ideology that says the entire project of of the founders, the authors of the Constitution, the authors of the Declaration of Independence. We're witnessing a whole bunch of people that say all of that was garbage. For me, as daughter of people who came here in 1620 and 1630, on the Mayflower, on the Arabelle, listening to these people wishing to overthrow the notion of the rights of Englishmen, all right, which became broadened to the rights of man. You know, these notions became broadened, and the history of this nation has been one of, to quote Martin King, we're here in 1963. We're here to cash the promissory note. There have always been people that said the promissory note is garbage. There have always been people who have been marshaled to use physical force to cancel that note. And that's what's happening now. That's what happened in 1770. That's what happened in, in probably the broadest context, in 1860. And there are tons of people that will tell you about how that occurred in American history. I mean, I really enjoy, particularly about the Revolutionary period, Joanne Freeman's stuff. If you don't know Joanne Freeman, just subscribe to her channel. She's just great. She's a professor at Yale, and she's remarkable. An historian of the 1850s, Heather Cox Richardson, is also remarkable. Follow those people around this context. Also, Wajarad Ali has been doing remarkable work about putting this in context. So, you know, I'm an old seamstress. I did study history. I studied with some pretty goddamn remarkable people. David Hackett Fisher was one of my professors at Brandeis. He's look, read his stuff. It's all about the actual, real people in society at those times. Uh, he's a quantitative historian. He really digs deep into the data. I think one of his he interestingly he wrote a book, Sons of Albion, I believe, and then he wrote a book which the Sons of Albion was a deep dive into where the colonists came from, both in New England and throughout the other colonies. He also wrote a book about where the slaves came from, and that's his more recent book. I can't remember the title of that, but just a remarkable thing about how this nation came together. Both from the Free White and 21 bunch and the packed into fucking slave, packed into holds. Much to my chagrin, I am a descendant of one of the people who was instrumental in the development of the transatlantic slave trade. And I don't, I'm not going to back myself away from some responsibility of of that heritage. But I do think it is incumbent upon me, and it is incumbent upon people like Trump and people like, you know, Junior Gestapo, what's his nuts? Uh, the guy who looks like, literally looks like Goebbels. Come on, what the? I'm sorry, I'm having a senior moment. Uh, deputy White House staffer guy. Uh, Come on, somebody in the chat tell me who am I forgetting, because it's this, Anyway, where do we go from here? I don't know, but I will tell you where where our ancestors went after the Boston Massacre, so called. They established committees of correspondence. And committees of correspondence. Now, you have to understand that in 1770, 1771 through 75, news traveled slow, real slow, pony slow. What happened in Boston in March of 1770 didn't make it to Georgia the next day or the next 50 seconds. It took a while. It took quite a long time, in fact. So that, you know, the distance between the Boston Massacre and what happened on the 19th of April in 1775 in my hometown was 5 years and a month. But that's not going to happen these days because our committees of correspondence happen at the speed of light. The two murders in Minneapolis, everybody knew about within 15 minutes of them happening. We can see this shit before our eyes. And that's actually both a good thing and a bad thing because I don't know as we have enough time to reflect. Because our entire um, our entire thinking process throws us into in these days throws us into viewing things through one particular political lens or another. And it takes us far longer to jump out of the particular political lens that we have fallen into and realize this shit's wrong. And I think that's a big part of of um, of what we call what is often called both sidesism. There's both sidesism because we no longer have the capacity to understand what side is correct. We want to make excuses. But at some point, I've said for I've said for at least on this channel I've said and been excoriated for it. I've said for at least 3 years, it's gonna take people in the streets. Specifically, it's gonna take white people in the streets to change the fucking trajectory of 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 a march toward totalitarianism that has taken place over the course of 40 fucking years at least. Welfare Cadillacs. Let's avert our eyes to the economic disadvantage of people of color. Let's avert our eyes to a whole bunch to the vast accumulation of wealth by the by a minuscule portion of the population, not just in the United States but worldwide, but but spearheaded by by a United States of America that 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 wishes to position itself as the global hegemon. I mean, listen to Mark Carney's speech at Davos. Mark Carney, nobody on earth can say that Mark Carney is a fucking commie. The man was the fucking governor, chief governor of the Bank of fucking England. And I'm not a big fan of governors of the Bank of England. I'm not a big fan of capitalism. Because I do think that at base, capitalism fucks people over royally. Always has. Pardon me. Listen, I'm in the middle of a goddamn blizzard. I ain't going nowhere. Tonight, tomorrow, maybe even Tuesday. It's just like, God damn it, it's shitty. So I provisioned myself with Bloody Marys. And by the way, all y'all who just, all you bastards out there who basically have told me get off fucking YouTube because you're an old drunk who will die alone, fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. Get yourself another glass of wine. The only reason I do this is because I can. And I'll be honest, I've been fucking discouraged. Because I've had to deal with these motherfuckers. I've had to deal with a whole bunch of garbage. And I guess at this point, I don't give a fuck. But I will tell you that there are things we need to do right now. And the most important thing we need to do is to stand with one another. To be part of that, of the committees of correspondence, and call out the oppression that we're seeing in our neighborhoods. I live in Portland, Maine. I can literally go out my front door right now if it wasn't fucking snowing, and I can show you the leaflets that says ICE, go away. My state has been targeted. What do they call it? Operation Fresh Catch, as if we're fish. Why are we targeted? Because our governor and candidate for senator, and I hope she fucking wins. I actually think Graham Plattner is a great guy, except for the fucking, skull tattoo, the Nazi shit. It's like, come on, man. Can't we do better? Janet Mills is our governor. Janet Mills told Donald Trump to go fuck himself. Well, she didn't say that. She said, I'll see you in court. But because she said, I'll see you in court, he's flooding a town of 50,000 people with a bunch of fucking slave patrol jackasses that just want to go after black people. Many of whom live in my goddamn building. Many of whom actually are Christian. This goes to the second, the second bit here. Wazirat Ali um, it, I believe is a faithful Muslim. Maybe he's not. I don't know. But he had as his guest a gentleman who came out of the Southern Baptist Convention and still identifies as a Christian. And his entire thing, the thing I linked, or I think that PC did link, uh, was like, we need to do another Christianity. And it's like, oh, okay, well, yeah, fine. Look, for all the atheists that are watching this right now, particularly the more like, what the fuck atheists, who say we just need to just disassociate with Christians of all stripes, liberal or conservative or whatever. I think you're missing the plot. I think that if you look at history, I almost went down a tangent here with the religion being the opiate of the people, which I agree it is. But if you look at history, the times when things change dramatically, the times when things have changed dramatically within United States politics have been when things have gone so awry that they have veered out of a conventional perception of morality. And I hate to say it, which I always hate to say because I hate that fucking locution. Conventional perceptions of morality in the United States of America are built around the so called Christian values. I don't recall who the person who uh, Wash was speaking with in the stream that I viewed earlier, but that was his thing. It's like, we need to give people a path towards a Christianity that is embracing. And he brought up the fact there's he brought up the fact that Medgar Evers, if you don't know who Medgar Evers is, then you ought to figure that out. Medgar Evers was basically trying to integrate Christian congregations, and that's why he got shot. He was trying to get black and white Christians to share communion, both literally and figuratively. I really don't know how how best to put this, but we need, as atheists, as Americans, we need all the allies on the side of liberty that we can get. And if we're going to fucking sit around and think that this person, that person, and the other person is disqualified on the basis of personal inclination, then we might as well hand the goddamn tray to the fascists. I mean, let's remember that the poem about first they came for the blah 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 blah, and then they came for me, was written by a Christian. And y'all know I've quoted that often. I've told y'all they're coming, when they come for me, they're coming for you next. And I've also told you that most of the people that you think hate me didn't. But they're persuadable to hate me. You gotta stop. We gotta stop thinking that. We gotta stop thinking of, even with my allies. I'm talking with the LGBTQ people. It's like, look, don't. You need to really see us as people, right? Really see us as people. Really see us as people that that have a story to tell that you can't tell. And that just doesn't go for me. It goes for other. It goes for other communities of whose voices have not been heard. It goes for women, but for women, for people of color. Bring those voices forward. Direct the questions that are brought forward to you to those voices. Let's speak for ourselves too. Also, don't tolerate our being shunted aside. Center us. I mean, when I think of, particularly when I think of movements uh, for liberation and respect, I think of the American Indian movement. So I don't know. I got shit to do. I don't know who's been watching the stream. I see PC's been in here. I'm very very sorry, Randy. Good to see you, Surrender Monkey. Good to see you. You know, and I hear you, Crystal. I'm here not going to swallow your values for an ally I don't believe are actually allies, Christians. It's like, yeah, well, that's fine. But if someone says they're a Christian, you don't throw out the offered allyship. Is my point. It's like there's a presumption there that is probably that I believe is undeserved, and that's probably because of the fact that I am an atheist from a very devotedly Christian family. You know, generations beyond me and generations before me are involved or have been involved in structural Christianity. You don't need to give an inch, PC. I don't give an inch. But there are people in those movements who also don't give an inch in support of me and in opposition to um, the fascist project that's in front of our eyes. So, my place or my position is at this moment, we need everyone on point to oppose the Stephen Millers. And finally, the man's name came back to me. That guy is Joseph Goebbels Jr. We are literally on the brink of a humanitarian disaster. And we need to do something to stop it. And the only thing we can do is stand in the streets. I've been saying it for years. At this point, the only thing we can do is stand in the streets and get the motherfucking mealy-mouthed bastards who are willing to surrender to the forces of fascism right the fuck out of positions of responsibility. The time for moderation is done. Chuck Schumer, pony up, get out of the way. One of the two. Hakeem Jeffries, pony up, take responsibility, get out of the way. One of the two. Don't care what your fucking religious beliefs are. Don't care what your shit is going. You know, pony up, get out of the way. One of the two. Because Americans are dying in the streets, and you have funded it. You've made it possible. And you need to do some fucking reflection as to why you fucking let this happen. Is it because you don't like, the trannies? You've let these fucking bigoted goddamn narratives take over your own fucking mind because you don't think trans folk are popular, or you don't think these folk are popular, and you haven't been fucking courageous enough to stand up and say every American has a role and a place and you need to shut the fuck up if you're going to be a jackass and spread misery in your community. Yeah, American exceptionalism is dangerous, but it's an idiotic uh, it's an idiotic thing. And I will conclude with this. I'll conclude with this. A whole bunch of the, again, cheers, folks. As you see, I have not gotten out of the seat to refill my drink. Oh, y'all always think I'm a fucking drunk. I'll conclude with this. And you'll have to forgive me for a moment because I kind of need to. And this is another thing. I don't think that Wajarat Ali came up with this, but I think it's really critical for people to understand about the English folk that came here. And I don't remember somebody, I think, on that side, in that particular area of the YouTubeosphere, which, by the way, sucks. Generally speaking, I'm highly unsanguine about that. Is the notion of the city on a hill. And I think I've talked about this. It's become a trope. And it's really badly misunderstood. And I'm going to. It was a sermon that John Winthrop gave in 1630. One of my ancestors was there for that. And then trying to get the text because I know exactly what I'm looking for. I think I can actually do this rather quickly. Now, the only way to avoid this shipwreck and to provide for our posterity is to follow the counsel of Micah, to do justly, to love mercy, to walk humbly with our God. For this end, we must be knit together in this work as one man. We must entertain each other in brotherly affection. We must be willing to abridge ourselves of our superfluities for the supply of others' necessities. We must be willing to abridge We must uphold a familiar commerce together in all meekness, gentleness, patience, and liberality. We must delight in each other, make others' conditions our own. Rejoice together, mourn together, labor and suffer together, always having before our eyes our commission and community in the work as members of the same body. So shall we keep the unity of spirit in the bond of peace. The Lord will be our God and delight to dwell among us as his own people. And we will commend a blessing upon us in all our ways, so that we shall see much more of his wisdom, power, goodness, and truth than formerly we have been acquainted with. We shall find that the God of Israel is among us, when 10 of us shall be able to resist 1,000 of our enemies, when he shall make a praise and glory, that men shall say of succeeding plantations, the Lord make it like that of New England. And here's the nut. Listen to it. First of all, appreciate what Winthrop said previously. We must uphold a familiar commerce together, meekness, gentleness, patience, liberality, delight in each other, make each other's conditions as our own. Doesn't that sound a little bit socialistic to you? Rejoice together, mourn together, labor and suffer together. Always having before our eyes our commission and community in the work as members of the same body. All right? So with that in mind, and then the intervening shit about God and whatnot, which is this is a man of 1630. Bear this in mind. This is the nut. For we must consider that we shall be as a city upon a hill. The eyes of all people are upon us, so that if we shall deal falsely with our God in this work we have undertaken, and so cause him to withdraw his present help from us, we shall make a story and a byword through the world. We shall open the mouths of enemies to speak evil of the ways of God, which is to say, our ways, because we are taking upon ourselves the ways of God. And all professors for God's sake, we shall shame the faces of God's worthy servants, and shall cause their prayers to be turned into curses upon us, till we be consumed out of the good land where we are a-going. The city on a hill for John Winthrop and the Puritans was not a guarantee. It was not a proclamation of goodness. It was a warning that if we don't care for one another, that if we don't provide for one another, that if we don't give good consideration to the needs of our fellow humans, the people of the world will hold us accursed. And Ronald Reagan turned that on its head. And so are his followers. So, I love you all. I appreciate those who've come by. Appreciate your tuning in. I'm gonna go over and screen calls for the wine, which I love those guys, but damn, the whole atheist thing. At this point in my life, it's like, God, fuck, who gives a shit? But it's all good. Take care. Be strong. Stay warm. Stay out of the hot sun. And please, 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 do as John Winthrop said. Delight in each other. Make others' conditions your own. Rejoice together. Mourn together. Labor and suffer together. Always having before your eyes your commission and community in the work as members of the same body. That's John Winthrop. That's not Donald Trump.